In the past few decades, the middle class in the US has been disappearing, and it's happening faster than anyone imagined. Some now say they'd rather be poor than stuck in the middle class. But why is this happening? In 1971, 61% of Americans were part of the middle class, but by 2023, that number had dropped to just 51%. Now, at first glance, 10% might not sound like much. But think about this. 10% of the entire population means tens of millions of people. Imagine every 10th person you know slipping out of the middle class. This decline isn't just about numbers. It's about people and their struggles. Meet Lisa, a 35-year-old teacher in Ohio, and Emily and Carlos, a couple in their early 30s living in California with their 3-year-old son, Lucas. Their stories reveal why the middle class is shrinking and what it means for millions of families. Moving back to Lisa, she grew up inspired by her parents' story. Her father worked at a car manufacturing plant, and her mother is a housewife. Together, they bought a modest home, sent Lisa to college, and even built a small retirement fund. Lisa always believed she'd live a similar life like her parents. On the other hand, Emily and Carlos both work full-time. Emily as an assistant nurse, and Carlos as a construction worker. But despite their best efforts, both Emily Charlos and Lisa finding it harder each year to stay afloat financially. Lisa started teaching 12 years ago, earning $40,000 annually. Today, she makes just under $50,000, but after adjusting for inflation, her purchasing power hasn't increased. While American productivity has grown by 80% since the 1970s, real wages for workers like Lisa have barely moved, increasing by only 29%. Other side, Emily's salary, which started at $38,000 a few years ago, has seen minimal increases, especially when compared to the growing cost of living in California. Over the last decade, wages for middle-class jobs have been stagnant. Their monthly rent alone is now $2,800, which eats up almost 40% of their combined income. Lisa's rent for a one-bedroom apartment eats up 45% of her monthly income. Home prices in her area have surged beyond what she can save for a down payment, as the housing market increasingly caters to higher income earners. Meanwhile, her loans, health insurance premiums, and everyday costs, like groceries and utilities, keep rising faster than her paycheck. To bridge the gap, Lisa started tutoring after school, logging an additional 10 to 15 hours of work each week. While this extra income helps with bills, it leaves little time for self-care or building a savings cushion. Like many middle-class families, she's working longer hours, not for advancement, but merely to maintain her footing. But last month, something unexpected happened. Lisa's car broke down. That repair bill forced Lisa to max out her credit card. Now, even small financial shocks feel catastrophic. She reflects on how her parents managed to save with one income, while she struggles with 2 jobs and no savings. Nevertheless, Emily and Carlos are paying $1,200 a month for daycare, a critical expense for both of them to keep their jobs. The average cost of daycare in California is among the highest in the nation, with rates in urban areas exceeding $1,500 per month. It's a strain on their budget, and it leaves them with little flexibility. Carlos, too, has seen his earnings stagnate. While construction has traditionally been a well-paid sector, wages for middle-skilled jobs have plateaued, especially with automation and outsourcing cutting down opportunities. They've considered expanding their family, but the thought of another child feels financially impossible. Between the rising rent, daycare costs, and everyday expenses, they feel trapped. A second child would mean more daycare expenses and even less time to manage their work-life balance. They want to give Lucas a good life, but the economic pressures have forced them to put their dreams of a bigger family on hold. These are the stories of common middle-class people. The rich can afford anything they want without any worry, whether it's healthcare, luxury, and security. The poor, on the other hand, qualify for free healthcare and government assistance. But the middle class? They're caught in a relentless squeeze, earning just enough to disqualify for help, but not enough to avoid budgeting every expense, from healthcare to basic living costs. Now you can understand why anyone prefer to be poor rather than stuck in the middle class. There are many factors contributing to this decline, but when we look at the stories and current circumstances, the core issue boils down to stagnant incomes and rising costs. But what is the government doing about this? Absolutely nothing. The policies are highly favorable to wealthy corporations and individuals, leaving the middle class to bear the brunt. Everyone knows that wealthy people don't pay taxes like middle-class workers, who works tirelessly in jobs and surrendering nearly 25% of their income.
Just take the case of billionaire Warren Buffett. He often points out that he pays less taxes on a percentage basis than his other employees, including his secretary.
Yet, the government turns a blind eye. But why? Because everyone, from politicians to businessmen, seems to be part of the same shady game. While the middle class struggles, major corporations earning billions and still manage to pay zero federal income tax. For instance, in 2020 alone, 55 of America's largest corporations paid nothing in federal income taxes despite their massive revenues. This reflects the broader economic disparity where the top 1% of Americans now control more wealth than the entire middle class combined. They hold a staggering 30% of the nation's wealth, amounting to $38.7 trillion. In contrast, America's middle-class households collectively own about 26% of the country's wealth. This stark imbalance clearly reveals who truly owns the United States of America. Let's be clear, this isn't about personal failure. This is about a system rigged against working families. Corporations receive massive tax breaks. Wealthy individuals exploit legal loopholes. Political donations continue to shape policies favoring the rich. Minimum wage remains stagnant, while living costs skyrocket. On the other hand, a 2024 survey found that 47% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, up from 35% in early 2022. Now it's the time. We should stand at a critical moment. The choice isn't between acceptance and rebellion. It's about reimagining our economic future. This requires meaningful tax reform, investment in education and skills training, healthcare systems that don't bankrupt families, policies that prioritize workers, not just corporations. Change doesn't happen by accident. It happens when people recognize their shared struggles and demand better. The middle class isn't just an economic category. It's the heartbeat of democracy. When that heartbeat weakens, the entire social fabric begins to unravel. This is not the end of the story. This is a call to write a new chapter together.